2 letters.
Right, thanks very much. Now, according to Humza Yousaf, we're living in a Scotland that's been engulfed in a tidal wave of hatred. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't see it. I don't know where he lives. And I think the reason he thinks that is he thinks people are not too keen on him. And he assumes that this must be racism and Islamophobia or whatever. He doesn't realise it's just people don't like people who are not very good at their job. But what we're here to talk about is this dreadful new law. Now, we're here in front of the police station. Now, the poor old police are going to have to put this into practice. I mean, good luck to them, because it's such a terrible law that they're going to have a nightmare doing it. So we're not protesting against the police. We're here because the Scottish government's put the police in an impossible situation, trying to put this thing into practice. I mean, the whole idea of hate crime, I just think the whole thing's a total nonsense. Because the idea is, if someone goes along and like beats an old lady up and steals her purse and runs away down the street, that's not a hate crime. That's not such a big deal. But if someone punches someone because they think they're gay, oh, that's got to be police top priority. Drop everything and get there. That's really what we need to be dealing with. I mean, is it not pretty basic? The law, the police should treat everyone the same. If someone attacks you, if someone attacks me, if someone attacks anyone, doesn't matter what the reason is, the police should treat it all equally. But according to Humza Yousaf, according to every party in the Scottish Parliament, then that's not what we're supposed to be doing. The police should be treating different people differently. Totally mad. Right, which people are specially protected? Well, it's the ones according to the sacred protected characteristics. This idea that the government can decide who the special people are that get the special protection, and then there's just the bog standard normal people. Well, they can sort of fend for themselves a little bit. They're not really the police's priority. It's the special people they want to come along with. And it's just divisive. It's divisive, isn't it? Humza Yousaf thinks there's 2 sorts of people in the world. There's oppressors and oppressed. There's good people and bad people. That's his view of the world, and he wants the police to operate according to that view. Now, where do we start with this whole hate crime thing? Let's start with hate incidents. You heard of those? Because what the police do is if someone reports something to them and says, I think this was hatred, then the police keep a record of it, record it as a hate incident. No investigation, no right of defense. It's just recorded as a hate incident, and there it is on your record. How do I know that? Because I've got one. So on the computer system in there is a record of my hate incident. I was the perpetrator of a hate incident. And what did I do? I said the children need a mum and a dad, ideally. That's what I said. And according to Police Scotland, that makes me the perpetrator of a hate incident. Now, not only do they keep it on their computer forevermore, they sent a copy of this hate report to my employer without even telling me. They sent a copy to my employer. How sinister is that? Maybe it's happened to you and you never knew it. How many hundreds of people might this have happened to in Scotland? Who knows? Maybe people, everything's going along well at work, then suddenly it seems like something's changed. Suddenly they're really wary of you. Maybe Police Scotland have sent a hate concern report to your boss, and you don't know anything about it. No right of defense. I think that is so sinister. It's got to stop. Then we're on to hate speech. Hate speech, this sort of censorship. I mean, if Humza Yousaf really wants a hate speech law, I would say, okay, fair enough, but let me decide what hate is. How about that, Humza? Is that a good deal? It'd say, no way, I want to decide. The SNP are going to decide what hate is. It's not for you to decide, it's for us to decide. Well, I say that just shows what the problem is, isn't it? No one can decide what's hateful and what isn't. Forget the whole thing. I mean, in this law here, I'm waving around here. At the end, I'll ceremonially put it in a bin if there's one anywhere close. But it says, for the hate speech thing, you've got to be threatening or abusive. Well, they're already illegal. But abusive includes insulting. Humza Yousaf said himself, abusive includes insulting. So it made it illegal to be insulting. And that's a pretty low bar, isn't it? Now, Humza Yousaf, even before this law, he's been an absolute expert at getting people nailed for being cheeky to him on Twitter. I think we're on 4 at the moment. 4 people in Scotland have been sent to court, and there's been police action, and they've been convicted for being a bit rude or offensive or whatever to Humza Yousaf. Okay? Now, if you reported someone being offensive to you on Twitter, what do you think the chances the police would swing into action?
None.
and they're being caught. Zero. But Humza Yousaf, and Police Scotland's like his personal police force. When he clicks his fingers, they swing into action, and if you've said something Humza Yousaf doesn't like, you will be nailed. Now let's it just gets worse and worse. So that's the hate speech thing. Then we've got the misogyny law coming, which is just as well, it's even more bonkers. So instead of saying sexist crime is worse, they're saying sexist crime is worse as long as it's by a man against a woman. But if it's by a woman against a man, that doesn't matter. But it's sexist crime against a woman or a man who says he's a woman. That also counts as misogyny. I mean, you couldn't make it up. It's utterly bizarre. And then our friend Humza Yousaf takes to X a few days ago, and he, what'd you say? He didn't say tweeted. What'd you do on X? He X'd. And so he put something on X, and he said, we mustn't divide society into people who are worthy of protection and people who are not. You think, hang on, this is the man who's introducing a law that protects women but doesn't protect men. And then he says, we can't divide society into ones who are protected and ones who are not. I mean, quite bizarre. I mean, the police, I'm a great supporter of the police. I mean, if there's a mad axeman at my door, I mean, I've phoned the police. I mean, the police have a really difficult job. They deal with some pretty obnoxious people, criminals, people high on drugs, all sorts of very difficult situations, accidents, terrible, the sort of thing that you and I would think, let's steer clear. The police have to go and deal with it. So I'm a great supporter of the police. And I feel sorry for them, having to face this politicization. I know a couple of police officers, and you should hear what they say about the way that they get stuffed full of equality and diversity training. They're fed up of it. They're absolutely fed up of it. But if you want to keep your job, if you don't have any sort of chance of promotion, you've got to toe the line and go along with it. Now, last summer, I went along to the Edinburgh Pride event, and I just took a placard that said, children do best with their mum and dads, natural mother and father, statistically. Now, it doesn't matter whether you agree with that or not. But I just stood with that at the Pride event, and I got pushed around a little bit. People were pretty threatening, abusive. At one point, someone like put a rope around my neck from behind. So, you know, pushed and shoved. I wasn't like attacked, but I was pushed and shoved around. Next to me was the LGBT police group, with their faces painted with rainbows, etc. And what did they do? I said to them, excuse me, can you see what's happening here? And one of them said, well, why don't you go away then? Why don't you go away then? And that's the problem, is that the police have been politicized. And that's not by accident. That's exactly the plan of the SNP. They're trying to turn the police into an ideological force to promote their sort of message. Now, when it comes to hatred, I'm a Christian. So as a Christian, I've got a duty to do an awful lot of hating. And what I'm supposed to hate is evil. But I'm not supposed to hate people. I'm supposed to hope people, you know, repent, turn away from things that they've done. I mean, I wouldn't wish on anyone to sort of face God's judgment. But hating is part of human nature, isn't it? People do things that wind us up. You hear people doing things. People oppose what you're doing. Then it's natural. Hate comes up within us. But Humza Yousaf thinks you can cure it with a law. I mean, what planet is he on? What planet does he really think you can pass a law that's going to deal with hatred? Absolutely the opposite. Because if you give people special treatment, what happens? Well, it's a Sunday, so I thought I'd just base this next point on a little story from the Bible you probably know as well. Think about Joseph and his brothers. What did his dad do? His dad gave special treatment to Joseph. He gave him his coat of many colours, treated him really specially. So what did all the other brothers do? They got really annoyed with him, and they actually absolutely hated him, and they ended up trying to kill him. That's what happens when people are perceived to get special treatment, and that's exactly what the SNP are doing. They're trying to give special treatment to different groups in society. Now, we all remember, don't we, of course, Humza's famous white speech in the Parliament. I mean, he's done more to stoke hatred and division by that speech than any number of people who are going to get prosecuted under this law, or the people who Humza's already got prosecuted for being rude to him on Twitter. Now, Anna Sawa gave a speech exactly the same, in a nicer tone of voice, but basically exactly the same. I would think, I mean, who's more dangerous? The person who says white, sounding like he's full of hatred, or the person who gives the same message, sounding like he's a bit more reasonable and a nicer person? I don't know who's more dangerous. But certainly that ideology needs to go. I mean, Humza Yousaf, I mean, we're not far off from saying bye-bye to Humza Yousaf. But who's going to come next from the SNP? probably someone who will just think exactly the same. This idea of the sacred protected characteristics, the special people that the police should protect more than other people, that idea is supported by all the parties in the Parliament, supported by the UK Conservatives. That's not going to change anytime soon. So there's this rising tide of hatred that Humza Yousaf keeps talking about. Does it exist? It only exists in his imagination. It's in his imagination, it's not reality. What Humza Yousaf is actually facing is a rising tide of common sense, a rising tide of justice, and a rising tide of fairness, and I think that's why ultimately he's about to be swept away into history. Right, thank you very much. Thank you.